if you are new around here, my name is Kristen. I'm the co-founder of Coaching No Code Apps. And today we are going to talk about building and growing your app amid uncertainty. You know, there's a lot going on in the world right now, a lot of challenges people are facing, a lot of uncertainty. And we have been having a lot of conversations with our own clients, with a lot of you guys here in this group, and just with the community as a whole, and with app founders, and seeing, you know, what you guys are experiencing and what we can take from that and give back to you as sort of like an action guide, a set of steps on how you can best be moving forward during this time, because there's a lot you can be learning and a lot you can be doing right now. So one of the big things we have noticed is that there are really two mindsets that people are going into this with. And first off, I want to say that, you know, everything we're talking about today, obviously there are big challenges the world is facing right now, and everything we're going over is, of course, not to make light or to take away from any of that. But you, as an app founder and as an entrepreneur, you need to know how to navigate this time, and you need to know how you can still find opportunity and growth even with all this uncertainty and all these day-to-day changes. So we have noticed kind of two mindsets people are taking, and their mindsets are dictating their actions and their results dramatically. So what I'm going to do is share my screen so you can see my whiteboard here. Okay. So there are two types of entrepreneurs we really see sort of trying to take this on. And I'm going to draw this out here so you can get an idea of what it looks like. So one is the growth operator, and the other is the regressor. These mindsets, or these people, they both have different actions they're taking right now when they're faced with day-to-day changes, different challenges in the world and in their lives. But they both have similar aspirations. So growth operators, when they are faced with challenges, and we're seeing this with so many app founders and a lot of you guys, they thrive. And regressors, move that off, when faced with those same challenges, they tend to pause. So the actions growth operators take, and me going through this is going to help you kind of put yourself in the right category here. They double down when faced with challenges. So instead of pulling back, instead of pausing, instead of feeling scared or worried and then not moving forward at all, instead, they choose to double down with their apps. They also stay the course and creatively adapt. This is really important because you, as an app founder, don't necessarily have a finish line with your app, right? Because your app is something that you are building and growing, and it's going to continue evolving and adapting and iterating over time. There's not a finish line or an end goal, right? So what that means is that, you know, as you go through the process of building an app and rolling it out and just continuing those iterations, you're going to be met with different challenges just along the way, or different obstacles, right? That's just natural. That's normal. You may have experienced that already. And part of continuing to grow your app is adapting to those obstacles, meeting them head on and moving past them, right? So staying the course or creatively adapting doesn't necessarily, they're not necessarily two different things. Really, they just mean moving forward or just continuing, right? Just continuing to push for growth with your app, especially and even when there are obstacles in place or challenges like we're facing right now. And importantly, they look for growth. Okay, and this can be with their businesses, with their personal lives, with their family, and with their apps. Okay, but the important thing to understand is that growth operators, when faced with challenges, instead of pausing or pulling back because of fear or worry, they look for ways to push themselves forward. They look for ways to build assets. Uh, that could look like investing money. That could look like building an app that can serve them in the long term. They look for growth opportunities, and those don't necessarily need to be immediate, like within the day or the week growth opportunities, but they look toward building long-term investments for themselves. Now, regressors take very different actions in these same circumstances and situations. So regressors tend to focus on fear and worry, and that fear and worry feeds into their doubt. And what that leads to is them and their actions being driven by doubt. So whereas, the growth operator is going to double down and look for growth and stay the course or creatively adapt, a regressor is going to feel fear and worry and then be driven by that. And I want to clarify that it's normal to feel fearful or worried. As the founder of an app and living in a changing world that's facing a lot of challenges, it's very normal to feel those things, and that's okay. Where that changes is when you start to take actions or take next steps, or rather don't take next steps, right? Because regressors often pause instead of doing anything at all, right? They're driven by their doubt. So what that causes them to do is often step back or slow down. Now, both of these types of people, or both of these mindsets, they have the same aspirations, just like you do, right? You're building an app that you want to grow into a business or to help your existing business grow. And, both of these types of people have those same aspirations, but they look at them very differently when they are faced with challenges. So for growth operators, the way they look at their aspirations when dealing with uncertainty in the world or dealing with day-to-day changes is they aspire to become market leaders, right? They look at this as an opportunity to position themselves as leaders in their markets when others are pulling back or pausing. They also aspire to create reliable and durable income, right? They realize that, they can be building long-term assets for themselves that can not only be turned into a business, but can give them more reliable income when the world or economies go through challenging times. Think about the shift we're having right now towards technology and mass adoption of apps, right? They think about creating reliable or durable income for times like that. And they think about giving themselves and their families financial stability. And you might relate to this too, because yes, you are building an app that you're probably aiming for some sort of financial return, right? You are looking to build up a revenue with your app, or maybe save money for your business or for other businesses. But what comes after that? What is your why after that? You're probably looking to give yourself or maybe your family more financial stability with your app, right? And those are the kinds of aspirations that growth operators still have, even when faced with uncertainty. Now, regressors look at their aspirations a little bit differently, even though they have the same goals, right? They think that their dreams and their goals are no longer possible. They just think, well, you know, this is sort of it. I can't move forward. All my aspirations are no longer possible. They worry that their market won't recover, right? And we all know that markets go up and they go down. Historically, you know, when the economy goes down, it does come back up. And we're gonna actually come back to this in a minute. They feel like they'll fail, right? Because of everything else that we've talked about, they just feel like they'll fail. They've kind of given up hope, at least for now. So it's important to kind of look at the differences between these two. So if you think about it, long-term operators, they are really, or growth operators, I got ahead of myself, are really long-term operators, right? And regressors are short-term operators. So growth operators are thinking in the long term. They're taking what comes their way and they're thinking, how can I still make sure I continue forward, I continue growing, and I come out of this, looking at it as an opportunity for growth. And while that might sound a little bit weird given the current situation, growth operators are looking to become market leaders, and this is a really good opportunity for them to position themselves as the person, the app founder, who can help their markets come out of this on the other end, right? They're long-term operators, and regressors are short-term operators. They're thinking in the immediate. They're letting that fear and that worry sort of infiltrate their minds, and it's driving them toward doubt. And because of that, they're letting it sort of dictate their actions. And in the short term, that action is doing nothing, right? It's just kind of stalling or pausing. So growth operators, for the people who are, when faced with challenges, thinking, how can I adapt and move forward? They are moving toward their aspirations, regardless of what's going on right now. And the regressors are moving away from them, right? Because of the current situation and just the way that their mindset is sort of leading them. So, we already knew that we have a lot of growth operators in our community. The private clients we work with are growth operators. You are likely a growth operator. Even if you're not feeling that way in this minute, you likely can operate like a growth operator. So I know you're going to take a lot out of everything we're going to continue going through, because when you have the right mindset, it's just going to propel your success forward so much faster, especially during a time like this. So I'm going to move this up so we can clear it out a little bit. So, while the coronavirus and all the changes that are happening are causing a lot of fear and worry and uncertainty in the world, there are things you can be doing right now. So we talked about growth operators taking certain action steps, and that's actually specifically what we're going to go through. So let me just move my notes here. I'm going to go back to my whiteboard and talk about something called the kickback effect, which is something, let me change my color here, is something that I have been witnessing a lot lately. So the kickback effect, the normal path that you sort of visualize for your app looks like, I'm gonna draw it out here, it looks like this. So if we have, time down here, and let's say over here we have adoption in terms of, number of users or portion of the market. Generally, you kind of want your app to consistently increase in adoption over time. That's just a natural way to look at it. And for the past 3, 5, 10 years or more, you and I have both witnessed a massive shift from businesses going from, having a physical presence to being more online, and especially now to adopting apps, to being run by apps, to using apps with their businesses with their customers, to consumers using apps in their day-to-day lives. I mean, this is a shift and a trend that has been happening for some time now. And, it has kind of, obviously it wasn't a perfectly straight line like this, but over time, the adoption has grown consistently. But we're seeing something happen right now that is a little bit different because of the coronavirus. So we have this same sort of graph here. And what we're seeing is, I was reading something from someone named Scott Olford earlier, who talks about businesses in terms of being vitamins or painkillers. A vitamin is something that, helps their market grow. A painkiller is something that helps their market solve a really immediate, intense pain. So your app idea likely is a vitamin. It's something, yes, it does solve a pain point with your market, but it's a vitamin. It helps improve, right? Or grow in some way, make money, save time, add convenience, things like that, right? Your app idea is a vitamin. But right now, your app idea is likely a painkiller because there's such a massive demand for apps of all kinds right now, just to keep, our personal lives going, businesses going, everything, just to kind of keep our world going. Apps are turning into painkillers right now. And we've been seeing this happen with a lot of our clients and a lot of people reaching out to work with us as well, is that they're seeing this massive demand for their apps, right? They already knew their apps were needed anyways. There was already validation for their app idea. They were already going to be building it, but it was going to be a vitamin. Well, now, because of the coronavirus, because everything is shut down, people are staying home, but life and business still has to push forward. Their markets are coming to them looking for painkillers instead. And so what that's looking like on this same graph is we're seeing massive initial adoption. So let me just do this. So this is demand right here, right? Now, the demand we're seeing is coming in because, schools are going online, businesses are going remote, people are having to conduct their day-to-day lives online. So they're needing these solutions immediately, and they can't wait. So what that's doing is it's putting you as an app founder in a position to benefit in a few different ways. And we're going to get into that, and that's where the kickback effect comes in. But basically, there's this initial demand. And while on the other side of all of this, once we kind of get back to a new sort of normal in our lives, that, demand or that need for painkillers, it's going to go down a little bit, right? So we're going to see a little bit of a decline. But since the, shift towards the online space and apps, that was happening already. right? That was inevitable already. Now it's being forced. All of a sudden, everybody is being forced to just use and adopt apps of all different kinds. And once this all kind of, once we move past all of this, all these changes and all these challenges, that's not gonna, do a 180 and just go back to the way it was. No, that adoption is going to stay much, much higher. And while that, painkiller demand might not be there, you're definitely going to continue to see this uptick in apps. So while we might see a little bit of a kind of a downshift, then it's going to go sort of back to normal, right? How it would be over here. But because of this initial demand, look how far ahead you are in terms of adoption and time. It's massive. So there's a few different ways that you can benefit from this. One, let me just move my notes here. One is that, when you are serving as a painkiller, you're meeting an immediate need, and you are solving a critical problem for a business or a market or an industry. And because of that, they are going to build trust around you, right? So let me move this up a little bit. So because of the kickback effect, you are, number one, solving a problem, right? An immediate problem. And because you're doing that, you're building trust, because what are you doing? Well, you're positioning your app as the leader in your market, and you are showing your early adopters that you can provide the solution they need when they are in need. So you're building trust around that. And what does that do? Well, the most important thing you want to be getting when you first start building your app, when you build your MVP, for example, is feedback. That's your number one goal. Well, when you're in high demand like this, right, with the kickback effect, that feedback is going to come so much sooner, and you're going to get so much more of it because of that high adoption rate right in the beginning. And if feedback, right, is the thing you are aiming for, which if it's not, it should be, you're going to get so much more of it because of the kickback effect. And because of that, you can start kind of just, instead of starting at square one with your app, jump forward to square, 10, 20, 30, 40, and so on, just because of what's happening in the world right now, right? This down here is the kickback effect you are getting from being a painkiller right now, even if your app would otherwise be a vitamin, right? If it's a painkiller right now, yeah, it'll turn into a vitamin later on once you get back here. But being that painkiller and serving as that painkiller, that can be a game changer for you if you go through these steps. So I want to talk about one of our clients who's actually experiencing this. His name is Piers, and his app was already in need from his market. It was needed by his market. He's building an app to help gyms reach their members outside of just their physical building, right? So he had already identified this need and validated his app idea. His app served as a vitamin for that market. But when the coronavirus started to come around, his app became more of a painkiller. And the gym started reaching out to him saying, like, look, we might not be able to keep our doors open unless we have your app, because we need to be able to reach our members in a different way. And so, Piers joined us for 12 weeks, and halfway through, all of this happened. And so with the, change that, with the mindset of a true growth operator, Piers doubled down. He creatively adapted. He realized that he could serve as a painkiller and help a lot sooner. And he's seeing the kickback effect right now. He's already at the feedback stage this early on with his MVP, just because he had the mindset to say, hey, there's a lot of challenges right now. I might be scared or worried, but I know that I can still be a leader in my market. I know that I can still serve this market and help pull them forward too, right? So there's a lot to be said for this. So let me see here. Really, the kickback effect is a win-win for both your users and for you as an app founder. And it's a way to be looking at the current situation with a growth mindset, even though that might not feel like the most natural, normal thing to do. It's a way to look at it to help yourself move forward with your app when you might feel like pausing, right? So you might be wondering now, well, I'm going to erase this so I can start fresh. You might be wondering now, what if I can't build my app within the next week or 2 weeks or three weeks, right? Because if these markets are needing the apps right now and you can't build the app within a week, well then how are you going to move forward and follow through with these types of things? Well, it's a great question. And I think the way that you need to look at it is we aren't going to be back to normal in the next few weeks. We aren't going to be back to normal, likely even within the next few months. What we're looking at now is, let me just kind of write this out too. The reality of 2020, at least a good portion of 2020, is right now schools, right? They are, a lot of them, at least where I am, are closing until the summer already, right? They're going online. They're doing testing online. A lot of events are being canceled, right? Months ahead of time. I was reading this morning about the Olympics, right? About the Olympics now potentially being affected. And those are months away. Even after everything kind of, after the coronavirus and after things start to resume in terms of just our day-to-day lives, it's still going to take a while to get back to our new normal, right? It'll still take a while to just sort of resume. It's not going to be just a 180 switch flip where all of a sudden it's just back to normal, right? And most importantly, in terms of you as an app founder, businesses are, they're going to come out of this on the other end looking to make changes for themselves. They're going to be looking to recession-proof themselves. Okay. So we're going to talk more about recession-proofing in just a minute and what this means for you building an app. But the kickback effect that we just went through, it's going to be happening for at least the next 3 to 6 months. And that's conservative, because the reality is that life is still going to take a while to get back to normal. We're not through this, this sort of time of uncertainty yet. And even once we are, it's going to take a while to get back to normal. So people and businesses and markets and industries, they're all looking for painkillers right now. But when I say right now, I really mean for the foreseeable future, right? For at least the next 3 to 6 months, if not more. So as an app founder, you can position yourself to take real advantage of that right now. Okay, so this really continues to expand. And I want to talk about, not just the reality of what we're seeing right now, but also, let me see, I can't get my whiteboard to be a little bit bigger. Also what our future is going to look like, and the future for you as an app founder. So, what comes after coronavirus? After we have started to kind of settle into whatever our new normal is going to look like. So, I mean, the fact is that our old normal, it's never going to revert back to that, right? We're going to be shifting and adjusting in a lot of ways, and that's going to continue even after we move through this. So right now, with so many businesses and consumers and organizations and industries being forced to use apps for daily operations and life, they're going to come out on the other side vastly more reliant on these apps, because they're going to start realizing, and this is important, how much time, money, and convenience they're saving from using these apps in the long run. So you might have started hearing and reading about trends like this already, but with this massive force of adoption, right? This forced adoption, a lot of businesses are starting to realize that, oh, these were assets that I could have been using all along, right? And maybe I should be using these moving forward as well. So the predictions I'm making, the really significant ones that I want you to be aware of are that, number one, many apps, let me get my pin here, many apps, they have served as arms of businesses in the past for businesses. And when I say businesses, consumers as well, apps in general, for their users or for their industries have served as arms in the past, right? So apps that were arms, what I'm predicting is that they're going to become the legs for a lot of businesses and consumers. So apps that were arms will become legs. So what does that mean? Well, let's look at it this way. I'm going to kind of call one side of this pre-COVID, and excuse my drawing skills, I'm going to call the other side post-COVID. Okay, so right now, a lot of businesses that already use apps, their apps are kind of up at the top here. Below that, they might have a product, and below that, they might have their service. So I'm going to talk about Starbucks as an example. So, things have obviously been changing by the day over the past couple of weeks. And so the example I'm going to use has already changed a little bit, but it was recently relevant, and it's still a really good example. So in the case of Starbucks, right, their service is the core of their business. Their service is making coffee. Their products or their retail that they sell in their store, their coffee beans, that was another core part of their business on top of their services. And their app was an arm of their business, right? So if you haven't used the Starbucks app, it lets you do things like order online or save favorites or accumulate rewards or find stores or things like that, right? So you couldn't use the app, right? You couldn't use their app unless Starbucks had their services or their products, right? Their app, I should say, was reliant on their services or products. And that's why it would be called an arm of their business, right? It was just an extension of their business to help promote and sell the lower two, right? Their services and their products. Now, what I am seeing happen right now, especially, is that those same types of businesses, they are adding the app alongside their services. They are adding an app alongside their products, and maybe they still have an app on its own. Okay, so think about Starbucks, right? So what they did to creatively adapt and carry on with that growth operator mindset is they found a way to continue selling their services and their products even when they had to actually close their stores. And they used their app to do that. Okay, so people were able to order on the app and just go in and pick it up, for example, but they weren't allowed to sit in the stores. And I think this has changed since then, but again, just look at the example itself. What happened was the app sort of became, right, the legs of the business, because these two areas down here now were not even possible without the app. Okay, so what's happening is a lot of businesses and a lot of consumers are realizing and adjusting, right? They're creatively adapting. So think of all the grocery deliveries, think of all the physical restaurants that are setting up pickup services or deliveries. And man, they creatively adapted, they adjusted, overnight. And a lot of them were using apps to do so. And a lot of them were already using apps before all this happened as an arm of their business. But right now, those apps are turning into the legs of their business because they're just being forced to. They have to do that in order to continue forward. But, what's going to happen after this? Well, that forced adoption, like I said, it's not going to just drop off and do a 180 and go back to normal. These businesses are going to realize, oh, well, I could, lower my operating costs, increase my revenue, increase my profit margins just by relying on my app a little bit more. I could have been doing that all along. Well, I'm going to do that moving forward, right? I was on a call with a business coach earlier, and he was talking about how restaurants in Denver, where he lives, they, overnight, they started using apps to set up, I think, curbside pickup service for a few of their restaurants in this one area. And he was talking to one of the guys, obviously from a distance in his car, and saying, it looks like you guys are still actually doing pretty well. And the restaurant owner, the person who's representing the restaurant, said, yeah, nothing has really slowed down, right? And I'm not saying that apps will be replacing or changing the businesses that drastically. Are these businesses going to stop having people come inside to their, to their restaurants or wherever it may be? Are they going to stop just operating physically? Not all of them, some of them probably, but no, not all of them. Starbucks will reopen, those restaurants will reopen, right? But they understand now that their apps, or the apps they're using, can play more of a role in their business, and they're going to become more so the legs versus the arms. Okay, and the other thing is, keep running out of room here. The other thing is that, let me get my pen here. Okay, so even right now, I had mentioned recession proofing a few minutes ago. So, right now, businesses are looking for painkillers, and that helps with a lot of early adoption and feedback. And it, of course, helps you serve your market. But they're also looking for ways to recession-proof themselves for the future. Okay, so whether it's a health crisis or something totally different, whether it affects the entire world, just a country, maybe just an industry, things happen. We face challenges all along the way. Okay, and businesses, people, consumers, everyone throughout life is essentially trying to recession-proof themselves, right? But right now, when faced with the potential of an actual recession and needing to get through and move past and continue to grow, businesses are really turning to apps to recession-proof. And this is what that looks like. So I'm gonna draw out my diagram here first. Okay. So what does recession-proofing mean? Well, it means a handful of things, but in general, and in the way we're going to talk about it in relation to your app, is it means lowering operating costs. Okay. It means streamlining operations, right? So, taking manual processes and turning them to apps, reducing human error, right? Taking redundant tasks and automating them, things like that. It means diversifying revenue streams. Okay, so adding new income sources, adding new streams of revenue beyond what someone or a business currently has coming in. And it means widening the market. So reaching more people, reaching new people, reaching new audiences. So how does this, or how do these things help businesses recession-proof themselves? Well, when you have apps that help businesses or even consumers in their day-to-day lives, when an app helps them lower their operating costs, what you're doing is you're saving them money. And even before I go through all of these, I have a feeling that you can already probably place your app in at least one or more of these categories. Your app idea. Does it help lower operating costs for businesses? That might mean having software that they use potentially. Maybe they have a bunch of softwares that they use to run their business, and maybe it's costing them thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars per month. Maybe this is the case with your own business, and you have an app idea that is going to reduce the need for any or all of those softwares because you're creating an all-in-one app that replaces them all, right? So you make that initial investment to build the app, but then you turn around and save all that money in operating costs down the road, right? So that's saving money because you're cutting massive expenses from the business. And how does that help recession-proof a business? Well, right, you're saving the money, okay? So what about streamlining operations, right? Automating redundant tasks, or, there's a lot of layoffs that are going to be happening right now, a lot that have already happened, but a lot of businesses still need ways to run their operations and run their systems. Well, the reality is that apps can do a lot of that, and businesses are going to continue to look forward or look towards doing things like that in the future because, maybe it won't keep them from hiring team members or employees, but maybe it'll help them hire the ones that will give them the most value or the most return, rather than hiring the ones that, need to do or would be handling tasks that an app could otherwise do, right? So in this way, even, gosh, there could be so many things, even just automating manual tasks, right? Just taking your manual tasks and putting them into an app, reducing human error, right? Well, what does that do? That saves time, right? And, time, of course, right? Time is money, essentially, if you're looking at it like this. So you're saving time, you're saving money. Well, what about diversifying revenue streams? Well, think about the businesses, for example, who maybe they don't even have an arm to their business that is an app yet. Or maybe there is not an arm that businesses in an industry can adopt. Maybe that just isn't there yet. Well, that app can be added as an arm, right? Think about Starbucks, how the app, their app arm wouldn't really exist without their products and services, but they added it on and it boosted the revenue for both their products and services. You can add on, I mean, the list for this could go on, but think of all the different ways that an app could bring in money. Maybe you are a service provider, and instead of working hourly, you want to translate your services to an automated process with an app that's more lower cost, right? And you can sell the app instead of just your services, and then you're diversifying your revenue streams, right? There's lots of different ways this could play out, but at the end of the day, you are making more money, right? Or you're helping a business or a consumer industry make more money. And then, widening their market, serving a greater audience. People, this could go back to what we actually just talked about right here, about, translating services to an automated app. Well, that's naturally going to also widen a market too, because you're going to reach those people who maybe wouldn't want the services otherwise. And again, this could play out in a lot of different ways, but at the core, you are making money. Let me see, I think I just lost my connection there for a second. Let me just make sure I'm back in. Okay, I'm going to share my screen again. Okay, I think we're good again. All right, so essentially, what do all these things do? Well, they help, businesses become recession-proof in a few different ways, and you might have started to see the trend already. They all aim to help save money, save time, and we know that time is money, and right, make money. All of these different ways an app can be used are helping recession-proof by saving money, saving time, or making money. That's what I mean by recession-proofing is, finding ways to consistently increase both revenue, right, and profit margins. That's what businesses are going to be doing right now and from here on out. They're going to be aiming to recession-proof, right? They're looking for the painkillers, and then they're looking for the the recession-proofing or the vitamin that helps them after that, right? So that is how you can position your app. I mean, that was the case all along, right? This is something that businesses have been looking for all along. Consumers have been looking for all along. But right now, even more so than ever. So what I want to do is talk about some of the ways we are specifically seeing clients create apps that will help recession-proof for the future. Okay, so we already talked about Piers, okay, with his app that is helping physical locations reach their members in a digital way or via an app. So even if their doors are closed, they can still continue running. Now that's a painkiller right now, right? But once it becomes a vitamin, what is that going to help those gyms do? Well, it's going to help them boost their memberships. It's going to help them retain their members for longer. It's going to help them lower operating costs, right? Because they can reach their members outside of just the gym. That means fewer of them might be coming in, right? An app is more scalable. So what is he doing? Well, he's helping them make money, okay? We also have Chris. Now, Chris is the owner of a successful consulting business, and he's building an app to help his own company automate their lead process because he was getting lots and lots of leads in, but he just didn't have the time or the capacity to take on all of them, right? Or to process and interact with every single one of them. So his option could have been to hire someone to work with leads and manage leads, but instead he looked to an app to help automate that process. Okay. And that app is giving back 30 hours a week of his time. Now think of what he can do with 30 hours a week, where those leads are now being processed automatically. So more are coming in, right? But he's also not having to spend as much time with them. He's able to focus on the higher priority areas like the sales or the fulfillment, right? Or the nurture, okay? So, well, what is Chris's app doing? It's helping him save, right? And make money. It's helping him do both. We also have Zach. He runs his own business, and he uses a number of software programs to run his business. We talked about this a little bit earlier. He spends tens of thousands of dollars per year just on the software that helps run his business. And that software isn't even customized to his business itself. So he's losing some aspect of customization. It's a little bit generalized. So he decided to build sort of an all-in-one app that would replace all the softwares that he uses, and not only replace them, but also customize it specifically to his own business. And this is something that he can use in his own business, and he can then later package and sell to other businesses like his. So, over a time span of 5 to 10 years, spending tens of thousands of dollars per year on the software that he's moving away from, I mean, he's going to save easily $250,000. And that's not to mention, when he packages and sells it to businesses like his, well, that's going to also make him money. It's going to add on a revenue stream outside of his actual main core business. So, this is also saving and making money. We also have Howard. Howard is building an app to help banks just make smarter decisions with their money. And in turn, that is going to help them save money and make money, right? So the same thing again, save and make money. We have Edward. Edward is building a payroll management app to help his niche industry. And it's going to do things like reduce their operating costs, reduce human error, and just streamline their current processes as a whole. So what is that doing? Well, it's saving time and money, right? So again, you see the trend here. They're all helping businesses become more recession-proof because, as their apps especially become the legs of these businesses and industries, or for the businesses who don't yet have arms to turn into legs, become the arms, right? They're going to end up increasing those profit margins, increasing their revenue, they're lowering costs, they're saving time or money, they're helping make more money, right? So that's what I mean by recession proofing. And my guess is that your app falls within that in some way, shape, or form, right? You already know that this is something businesses and people do always anyways. Everyone's always looking to save time. Everyone's always looking to save money. Everyone's always looking to make money. But now that we're dealing with something like, the coronavirus, it's more vital. It's more vital than ever, more vital right now and moving forward from this. So let me clear my whiteboard again here. Okay. So going back to talking about what our world is going to look like after the coronavirus in terms of apps and for you as an app founder. One, we are already seeing businesses creatively adapt, right? We are seeing that all around us. everywhere. And they're going to continue to do that moving forward because they're being forced to realize that that creative adaptation is something that can help them lower their operating costs, save time, save money, make money in different ways. They're going to continue creatively adapting even after this, right? So before we get to the next point, actually, I'm going to go into that just a little bit deeper. So businesses, you know, I had mentioned this a little bit. They're not going to totally revert after this creative adaptation. And that's something that I think is really key here because in having conversations, you know, and thinking like, well, how am I going to build this right now? How am I going to do it quickly enough? And it kind of pushes back into that panic mindset of like, if I can't help right away, then maybe I shouldn't move forward at all because is that demand not going to be there afterwards? You know, maybe that demand for the painkiller is there now. If I can't do it quickly enough, then maybe I've lost my opportunity. But again, remember that, you know, with that creative adaptation, with the sort of adoption of these painkillers right now, it's not going to go do a 180 and revert back after this. We've been trending this way for so long now, and the app market has just been growing and growing. You know, I mean, think of the billions of dollars it's worth and just how much more it's going to grow, especially after this forced adoption. So, you know, just remember that right now doesn't necessarily mean today or this week. It means in reality for the foreseeable future, because we don't know what's necessarily going to happen next week or the next week or the next week. But we do know that regardless of what happens, it's still going to take time to kind of push forward and move back, right? So the same is sort of true with regular consumers. So just as businesses are looking for ways to creatively adapt, consumers are too, right? You probably are yourself. I know that I am. So people are operating their day-to-day lives with apps right now. And just the same as that's not going to go away with businesses, it's not going to go away with them either. It's going to remain commonplace from here on out because it was just sort of, you know, forced to happen. And that adoption, it's, you know, a lot of people are realizing they like using these apps that they've been forced to adopt. They like doing different things online. That's not to say that they won't be grateful when, you know, or we all won't be grateful when we can, you know, go back to some semblance of normalcy, but the app adoption has been there. So where are we? Let me just fill this in just because I wrote it. So I want to talk about where we're specifically seeing all these shifts happen in terms of the types of apps to give you an idea. Let me clear this off again. Okay. So where are we seeing the shift to apps? In these spaces. So one, and these are examples, but this can really be expanded, but we're going to go over these specific ones. So one is healthcare. Okay. This is a big one, right? And I understand that your app idea might not serve these particular sectors, but in talking about them and their needs, it's going to help spark sort of some connection with how your app is going to fit into your market too. So think about healthcare right now. A lot of places are canceling things like elective procedures or asking people to stay home if they don't have certain symptoms so that they don't put themselves at risk, and kind of shift to telemedicine in a lot of ways. So with appointments, and think of ways lots of different industries are changing the way they hold appointments right now outside of just healthcare. Think about all different kinds of services right now, right? Think about like filling prescriptions, helping their users, their customers, in this case, their patients, receive or order a physical product without having to go in somewhere, and being able to automate that process. And think about how this connects to something other than just prescriptions. Obviously, any type of physical ordering a physical product or something like that, in ways you can automate it. And we're seeing this happen in a lot of different ways in healthcare specifically, but also think about education, right? Courses, right? Taking courses online, universities, lower level education, all different types of education, even education outside of just being in school or being in university, right? Tutoring, language learning, learning new skills. Think about all the people who would normally meet in person for that, but who are able to still do these types of things online. And even testing, right? That's another way. We have business operations. And this is something that we have been obviously going over a lot right now, but think about how businesses are streamlining with apps, right? Think about how they are going remote right now. That's massive. Think about all the different ways people are going remote right now, and all the different ways they're being forced to streamline their businesses with apps, just because they don't have the capability to be in person or to have all their employees right now, right? Let's see. We talked about adding arms, right? Or shifting to legs. And this is, new revenue streams. And see here, just saving money, saving time, making money, right? So we're just going to lump that into recession proofing. We also, and this is a really big one, are seeing service providers, consultants, agencies, small businesses in general, right? We are seeing them offering apps, right, as either an add-on or even in replace of their main service. And this is something we've been seeing happen for a while, and especially with a lot of our own clients, seeing them say, sort of like face reality and say, hey, I am a consultant or I am an agency and I max out on my hours. There are only so many hours I can work in a day and only so many clients or customers I can serve. Well, with an app, I could package my services in an automated way and scale potentially infinitely, right? So that's a way that, their arms, or they're either creating arms or even creating legs just right from the start. Also, like I said, arms, creating apps to complement their services. We've seen, we had a conversation with someone the other week who is creating an app to go along with one of their own courses that they've created. So that's more of customer experience, nurturing their existing customers, right? And that is adding an arm to a business that didn't previously have an app as at all. So let me move this down again. A mentor told me the other day, and this is just so relevant right now. He said, the seeds of the next crisis were planted in the prior crisis, right? So we have a crisis here, and right afterwards, we have prep and growth. We've seen that happening, right? We have another crisis, and we have more prep and growth, right? We see challenges, markets falling, the economy, right? And then we see prep and growth, preparation and growth. But even with all the challenges, right? The coronavirus, even with all of that, we're always still going to see this upward trend. And it's apps that are serving as that prep and growth. They are going to be contributing to this prep and growth. So the mentor I was referring to, he was referring to the 2008 financial crisis when he was talking about, the seeds of the next crisis were planted in the prior crisis. So when we saw this massive economic downfall in 2008, it was in a lot of ways very unprecedented, and there was massive disruption, right? But what we saw after that and during that even was businesses preparing, right, for the next crisis. So they could be better prepared to stick it out, to continue forward, and to continue pushing for growth even in challenging times. And, the reality is that we can't anticipate things like this. If you want to get really in depth with that, you can anticipate some things, but not really. Nobody could anticipate something like this disrupting the world in the way that it has. But the seeds of the next crisis were planted in the prior crisis. And while I don't necessarily like to use the word crisis because I don't like to instill panic in people, what we're going through right now is that. And that means that this prep and growth, it's already happening, right? Obviously, the painkillers are needed, but that prep and growth, it's coming to prepare for the next one, right? The seeds are already being planted, and the seeds are being planted in the form of apps right now. So, because, for example, in the 2008 recession, because so many of those companies planted seeds, they're going to be able to survive this challenge as well. And I guarantee you the same thing is going to happen, because this upward trend right here, we're still going to follow that upward trend, right? So let me ask you again. I'm going to kind of clear this. How will your app? Oops, get my black pen. Okay. How will your app help people or businesses? Let me just draw this out here. How will it help them save time? There we go. How will it help them save time or save money? Or how will it help them make money? How will it help them add convenience or streamline, right? How will it help them reduce manual labor and automate? My guess is your app idea probably falls into one of these, and you've already placed it in one. In some way, shape, or form, it's going to save money, save time, make money, add convenience, right? Streamline or reduce manual labor, automate, right? Your app is going to do that in some way, shape, or form. And for whatever industry or market your app is for, because remember, the whole world is in this together right now. We're all in it. Whoever you serve, you can be the founder that market turns to help recession-proof themselves, right? To help plant those seeds, to be the painkiller, and to move forward, right? So let me just come out of my whiteboard here. So if you're building an app for your own business, you can start recession-proofing yourself right now. If you're building an app for other businesses, or for consumers, you can do the same thing. You can be the painkiller, and you can serve as sort of the leader who will take them through the next steps from here. But The question you have to answer right now is, are you a growth operator or are you a regressor? If you're a growth operator and you want to push forward right now and take advantage of opportunities that other people might not be looking at, because a lot of people are operating from fear and worry. And again, while that's human, that's normal, we have to find a way to also look forward and move forward from here too. And if that's you, right, if you want to find a way to actually push for growth during everything we're experiencing, and even thrive instead of letting your actions be driven by doubt, we might be able to help you. If you are interested in chatting more, we're opening up as many free strategy calls right now on our calendar as we can. And we only have a handful available, but if you want to chat about strategy with your app and creating an asset right now that can help not only serve your market, but also serve you in the long run, we can chat about helping you get there. So just head to coachingnocodeapps.com/apply if you want to chat more and grab a spot. And with that, I hope you found this helpful and useful. And I hope you all stay positive, stay safe, stay healthy. We are here for you. And I hope you are also here for each other in this group. And I hope you are all able to, take that growth operator mindset and continue pushing forward, even amid the uncertainty and the challenges we're facing. So thank you for joining in, and we will talk soon. Thanks, guys.